Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. And in this preview video, we'll be looking at a side that has qualified for the playoffs for a few seasons in a row spanning from 2016 to 2020 and won the trophy in 2016. That side being the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Their recent two seasons have been disappointing. We saw in 2021 where they lost 6 out of the first 7 games when the tournament was being played in India for the first leg. The second leg was being played in the UAE, and I felt bad for them going into that leg and watching them play during the second half of the season because it seemed to be a formality rather than a side that you thought had something to play for at that stage of the competition. And in 2022, they lost the first 2 games of their campaign and then went on a 5-game winning streak. And I thought they were so close in maintaining that winning streak for a bit longer. We saw in the second game against the Gujarat Titans where the Titans needed 25 runs off the last over to win the game. And I thought Marco Jansen bowling that over was a wrong choice, and I thought the Titans could at least get close with him bowling that over. Rashid Khan and someone else finished the game off, and the Sunrisers managed to lose a game that they should have won. And since then, they conceded 200 against CSK in the next game, lost that game, and at the end, a very tame loss to the Punjab Kings. So apart from those 5 games in that winning streak, not too much to smile about. And during those 5 games they won, they were a win the toss and bowl first side. And we saw the games that they did lose when, if the bowling went for runs and a batting unit that didn't fire completely as a collective, then you saw they did lose those games. I thought after the mega auction in the previous year, they weren't front runners, but I thought they were decent enough to be in that middle cluster. And if things went well for them, I thought they could get into the playoffs. And during that 5-game run, they showed exactly why I did think that. But unfortunately for them, it just shows elite sport is a thing of fine margins. And if you don't win a game that you could have won, you saw that loss against the Gujarat Titans. It really turned the trajectory of how their season was going. With the way they lost to LSG in their second game, things weren't looking too good, and they won the 5 games in the manner that they did. Had they won this game, then it would have extended their confidence, and instead, losing that game meant they then lost a game against CSK, and that momentum was dissipated somewhat, and we saw the tame loss against the Punjab Kings at the end. So a poor season from them last time. And I thought in 2021 we saw especially 3 players after that season leave their side in David Warner, Rashid Khan and Johnny Bairstow, 3 integral performers. You saw what happened to David Warner, removed from the captaincy, and I think only played a game or didn't even play a game in the second half of the season. And Rashid Khan wasn't given the top priority bracket in terms of retentions, and so he didn't want to stay. And Johnny Bairstow couldn't be played for other times because they played Kim Williamson. So 3 players who I referred to along with Bhuvneshwar Kumar as roadblocks that as an opposition you want to really you have to contest with these 4 contributors. With 3 of those roadblocks leaving the side, you thought it was a void. And we saw in 2022 the result of those 3 leaving the side. A banker in Rashid Khan not being around in 2022 meant that you saw Bhuvneshwar Kumar have a great season. And you saw the bowling attack at times put up really good performances. But when they did go for runs, you thought there was no one to really bring things back for them if they did go for runs. And we saw the batting misfire because despite the fact that they had some good players there, I thought losing a David Warner, losing a Johnny Bairstow isn't easy for any side. And we did see that in the previous year. And because of the releasings from the previous year, 42 crores to spend in this mini auction, and you kind of thought with the players available, they will get the statement signings and they will have a squad that generally does look good on paper. And especially on a batting front, this squad does look good on paper. You've got the statement signings there. And in terms of Indian batsmen, I thought in terms of the 2 pedigree Indian batsmen available in this competition or in the auction, those 2 were Mayank Agarwal and Ajinkya Rahane. And I'm sure you know how highly I regard both of them. they've bought Mayank Agarwal like I expected for 8.25 crores, and generally I thought their auction went as I expected it to go. And on Mayank Agarwal, I mean, he's recently been dropped from the Indian contracts list, as has Ajinkya Rahane. I don't understand why. I'll keep on mentioning the number 82 because that's what he averages in domestic cricket. He didn't have a great season last time, but you can tell when someone's out of form and when they just have a bad season. In two of my previous videos, I've referenced another player, Riley Russo. We've seen what he's done in the PSL. Mayank Agarwal in the domestic season as well. He will have a very good season at this point in time, at least 400 runs. And you're looking at players like him and Ajinkya Rahane, where you've got these two players that not only they do a lot for their side, I think especially on face value, they seem very likable people. And it's because of his cricketing contributions and the way he seems to be as a person from the outside. I really want Mayank Agarwal to have a great season at this in this IPL and really show the selectors that there was no reason to take him off the contract list. A ridiculous decision. I know he's only averaged 26 in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, and in my recent video where I said possible players who could be in contention for the World Cup, I would still put Mayank Agarwal there because he isn't out of form and he has the attributes to bat at that number 3 role in ODIs. And in T20s, I believe he should open the batting. We saw in 2019 where he still had a very good domestic season as well, but he batted 3 a lot of the time and couldn't quite get the opportunity to shine. And it took that one game in 2020, the 89 against the Delhi Capitals in their first game, and you thought, right, here's a player here that's really going to do something. And he's averaged 40 in 2020 and 2021, and didn't have a great season in 2022, but I'm sure he'll have a great season here as well. I thought he led the side well for the Punjab Kings in the previous season, and he isn't captain here, but I think he'll form a very good top 3 alongside Abhishek Sharma and Rahul Tripathi. And on Abhishek Sharma, we saw what he did in the previous season. I was pleasantly surprised by the season he had. And I think for the Sunrisers, we saw them get him for 6.5 crores. And I thought that was partly because of the demand for the Indian players during the 2022 mega auction. But the first time he opened the batting for them was in the dead rubber game in 2021, where it was a game that was really looked forward to because of the chances of the Mumbai Indians to qualify. They got 235 and they had to bowl SRH out for 60 odd. The attention was all on the Mumbai Indians, and you got Abhishek Sharma opening with Jason Roy, and he played okay. And I was surprised that one, they bought him for 6.5 crores. I think they backed him from the previous season, and I think I was very surprised with the way that he went opening the batting. I think he did open the batting for Punjab leading up to that IPL and had a very good season, I thought. 426 runs at a strike rate of 133. And like I mentioned in my mini auction review video, I think had they got an informed David Warner, who we saw what he did for the Delhi Capitals, you've got him scoring 427 runs at a higher strike rate. And you've got Abhishek Sharma scoring 426 runs is still a good strike rate. He would have been a great understudy to David Warner, and that contribution would have got more for the Sunrisers in the previous season. With the way Kane Williamson went, and I thought he should have batted 3 rather than opening the batting, the onus was on Abhishek Sharma on the power play, and he did his best, but I feel like he needed that player where he could be the understudy. At this point in time, at least, he could be the understudy, and you've got a colossus like David Warner who goes the way he goes. So his contribution, and I'm sure he'll have a good season in this one as well, his contribution will yield better results for SRH, I think, at least on face value. And you've got a Rahul Tripathi who, I think there are certain players like Harsha Bhogle says who just get T20 cricket, and I think Rahul Tripathi is one of those players. We saw what he did in the previous season, 413 runs, but look at the strike rate, almost at 160. And I'll use the word technician because, like I said in my Mumbai Indians preview video, I think that if you look at players like Rahul Tripathi, Suryakumar Yadav, and Ayush Badoni, I think has traits of that as well. And Tilak Verma, like I mentioned in the Mumbai Indians preview video, you've got players like those who they don't take too many risks, but the way they play, the areas they access, they are very difficult to bowl to, and they go at such a brisk pace. And I think from an Indian T20 side point of view, Rahul Tripathi at 3, Suryakumar at 4 is a lock-in. And I'm sure he'll have a very good season once again. And that top 3 looks like quite a good top 3. And at number 4, they've got the match winner in Adam Markram. I'd said that when he was, I mentioned this in the LSG video, but when he was an opener in white ball cricket, you kind of thought he went okay, but not, anything to speak about, like write home about. He switched to number 4 in T20 cricket, especially in T20 cricket. I think that he has been a force to reckon with at 4. I'm sure he is good in ODI cricket as well, but in T20s, that impact has been there with bat and with ball. And I think his bowling has been coming on quite nicely. You've seen especially the economy rates have been quite good. His overall economy rate is 6.99 and he's got 27 wickets. Average is 34 with a healthy strike rate with the bat, as he's a match winner. And he's led South Africa briefly before in 2018, not for too long. I think a few games in that India series. Led the Sunrisers Eastern Cape to the title in the inaugural SA20 season, and they've put him as captain for this franchise as well, and I think he will do a good job. So looking at that top 4, that seems quite a good top 4. And the rising star from England and Harry Brook, a breathtaking start to his test career, and he's been a good player in the PSL for the Lahore Qalandars, recently won the T20 World Cup with England despite the fact he didn't have a great season himself. I didn't get too much of an opportunity. I didn't have a great season either in that T20 World Cup, but still a fantastic player. And a 13 crore price tag, he's going to bat at number 5. You arguably think he could bat at 4. But in this side, with the top 4 they've got, he would have to bat at 5, and that top 5 does look quite good. Number 6, I first had Glenn Phillips in the side, and I thought Klaasen at 5 crores was someone that could be a backup. But with the form that Klaasen has been in, and when Glenn Phillips was in India, he did not convince me at all. With some of the shots he played, there really wasn't too much of a form going for him. When he New Zealand toured India recently. So I've got Glenn Phillips. When I mentioned my 11, I've got Glenn Phillips to bat at number 6. He's been in great form for South Africa. We saw a century against the West Indies in an ODI to win the game for South Africa. And that top 6 does look quite good. A mix of quality, more measured players and some destructive players as well. And now on Bhuvneshwar Kumar. You know how much I rate him as a bowler already, I'm sure. And I think, a proven match winner for India and for SRH, and in my view, a legend of white ball cricket. And has had some very good test performances as well. So I think he's a very underrated player in Indian cricket and in world cricket. A complete bowler, and especially from 2016 to 2018, I thought he was along with Bumrah, I thought he was the best bowler in white ball cricket by far. And I think it's been very overplayed how people have viewed him since then in terms of the extreme as to how will he do. I think the good things that he's shown even in the last few years, even in the last year or so, have been overlooked somewhat. And there's always a precarious point that's been looked at to say how will he go to death. And by the way, since the New Zealand home series of 2021, and I've said this before, since then and up to the Asia Cup of 2022, his death bowling was quite good. And in IPL 2022, he had a standout season opening the bowling and at the death as well. So I'm expecting that kind of a season from him at this point in time as well. Yes, you could say from the Asia Cup his death bowling hasn't been as great. And you thought, how would he go in the T20 World Cup at the death? But he didn't have to bowl at the death all that often. And until the England game, he went to an overall economy rate of 5.67. So I think his new ball bowling is as good as ever, and I back him to regain his form at the death. And I think he's a bowler that doesn't get the credit he deserves. He can bowl any type of delivery. He can bowl knuckle balls and yorkers. And a delivery that he doesn't bowl too often now. I think he bowls the kind of the wider delivery at a good length more often than the delivery that I'm going to mention, and that is the bouncer. Even though he bowled the bouncer usually at kind of the mid 130s, the ball did rise up. He bowls a very intelligent bouncer that I think he could still bowl now. He did bowl it a lot more before, and it really was kind of a go-to delivery for him when he was under pressure at the death. And I think with someone that's got all those skills, I think he's been written off way too easily. He's not been given what I think he's been kind of moved on from as far as the Indian side is concerned. I think it's ridiculous considering some of the other players they're prioritizing ahead of him. A proven match winner for India and for his franchise side, and yeah, I think he does not get the credit that he deserves. And I'll put him alongside the players in Mayank Agarwal and Ajinkya Rahane, where they do more than their bit, but they don't have the glamour attached to them compared to the other players, and their contribution just gets overlooked. And you've got these three players who aren't in the scheme of things as far as the India selection goes, and you just think, what could they do? You've got a man here about, like I said, Rahane, they dropped, and he's averaging 54 in domestic cricket. And Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who, like I said, if you look at some of the other players they're picking and how long of a rope some of the other players have got, you've got a proven match winner here who I believe it won't take him too long to regain his death bowling form again. You saw before the Asia Cup that he was fine at the death, so that's on him, and yeah, that's on the three of them really. And I'm sure we'll have a very good season once again. And now on the 11, I think they could go with opening the batting will be Mayank Agarwal and Abhishek Sharma, followed by Rahul Tripathi at 3. The captain Aiden Markham at number 4, a very good top 4 there. Harry Brook at 5, and Heinrich Klaasen at 6. And I think Washington Sundar, he's usually batted at number 7 for India off late, and when he's walked out of bat, he's been in scintillating form. And I think even though he bats at 7, he's good enough to bat in the top 4. And I think you've seen the classical way that he plays and some spectacular contributions when he's walked out of bat. So a player like him batting at 7 is a bonus for any side. And Adil Rashid at number 8. The reason why I've got him at 8 in the side is because this slot usually was occupied by Rashid Khan for a number of years. I think that overseas wrist spinner slot still is one there, and you saw that kind of a player wasn't there the previous season. Adil Rashid is a different type of player to Rashid Khan, and he can still bat a bit and is a good number 8, although he's not as explosive as Rashid Khan. And with the ball, I wouldn't say he is as much of a roadblock as Rashid Khan, like I mentioned about Rashid Khan and others in previous videos. But I do think that for England, he's been very good. 291 wickets in 261 games, and there aren't really any other spinner looking through there aren't any other spinners looking through the roster in the side. I thought there was a Jagdish Suchit as well in the previous season alongside a Shreyas Gopal. There's Mayank Markande, who they could play him, and I'll get to the other players that they could play in the 11. But I think starting things off, Adil Rashid wouldn't be such a bad bet. Bhuvneshwar Kumar at 9, T. Natarajan at 10. I hope he remains fit throughout the season. And Umran Malik in at 11. And on Umran Malik as well, I think, last season, 22 wickets, and especially that 5 for 25 against the Gujarat Titans in a game where the Sunrisers somehow managed to lose. And I think something with him is he went at 9 and over in that season. He did give you 22 wickets, so overall I still thought he had a good season. His first full season after really coming to the fore in the previous season in the last few games. And I think looking at this SRH side, I think the batting especially looks quite good, especially if you're playing on a good track. You've got the 3 Indian players there as the top 3 in Mayank Agarwal, Abhishek Sharma and Rahul Tripathi. And you've got a destructive 4-5-6, as well as Rahul Tripathi 3, of course. Aiden Markram, Harry Brook and Heinrich Klaasen. And you've got the classical yet expansive Washington Sundar. The part of their side that I'm not too sure about, being honest with you, is their bowling. And I think, pretend if you've got a situation where there's no swing, you're kind of up on a very good batting track, you have to bowl first. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is not able to get the swing that he would like. You've got the two spinners in Adil Rashid and Washington Sundar, who they aren't wicket takers. So if there isn't too much spin on offer either, you've got those two not being penetrative in the middle overs. And you wouldn't really say they are wicket takers. Like I said, you got Adil Rashid, who probably goes at 1 for 19, 1 for 20, 1 for 20 is his stock performance for England, and his role there is to really get 1 or 2 wickets, but to keep the runs down. Washington Sundar once again does focus on economy rate as well. And you got Imran Malik, who goes for runs usually, well, at least at 9 and over in most games. And Adina Trajan, who, while he's a very good bowler at the death and is a decent bowler up front, he hasn't. Well, you look at his injury concerns, and I hope that after not seeing him play for a while, I hope that he can have a good season at this point in time as well. And you haven't really got too many options as a backup either. Because in terms of overseas bowlers, you've got Marco Jansen, who you don't want bowling at the death. We saw that last season. And you've got Fazal Farooqi, who I think is still quite a raw bowler. And you're looking at overseas seamers, and you want those seamers to be those standout bowlers. Are Marco Jansen and Fazal Farooqi those standout bowlers? No, they aren't. And which is the reason why I would have released Fazal Farooqi, despite the fact that he was okay in the previous season in the games that he played. I would have got Wayne Parnell in, and he would have offered a batting option as well. So if you want, you could have played him ahead of Adil Rashid and maybe played a Indian wrist spinner in Mayank Markandeya, especially if Tina Trajan wouldn't be fit for the entire season. And as far as the impact substitute goes, if you want to get another seamer in, the only other seamer there is the Indian seamers. He's a good seamer in Kartik Tyagi, but we saw in a general sense in the IPL, maybe apart from the one game when he was playing for the Rajasthan Royals against the Sunrisers Hyderabad, where Josh Butler scored 124 in the first innings. Apart from that one game, he's gone for runs whenever he has bowled in the IPL. He bowled at 150 kph at times in the previous season, and I think he's a good prospect. But he's quite raw to be relying on him as the only other Indian seamer apart from the main three, and you don't know whether Natarajan is going to be fit for the entire season. So I feel from the bowling front, they have to hope that they don't come up against a side on a very good batting track. Because pretend if they come up against a Rajasthan Royals, for example, and you've got their batting lineup, and they somehow manage to get a 200, you can't keep on giving those kind of scores and expecting a very good batting lineup as it is to chase things down. So I'm not convinced by their bowling across tracks, and we'll have to see how that goes. On turning tracks, I think they can still manage with the bat. You've got the top three there. You've got Aiden Markham, who's improved a lot in playing spin. I'm not sure how it will go on a surface like Chennai. We'll have to wait and see. Harry Brook, I don't know how it will go after he smacked everyone around, but hasn't really played in this part of the world and in those turning tracks as well. Henry Crosser has been in very good form, but like I said, I don't know how he will go on those type of tracks. And you've got Washington Sundar, who I think will be a vital player with bat and ball on those tracks. So interesting to see how they will go. You've got Adil Rashid, Washington Sundar, who when they do bowl, if they bowl on a chip-off track, which they will do, they're not players that are going to be those offensive weapons like a Kuldeep Yadav, for example. So in terms of putting pressure on the opposition, it comes back to the fact that if you're defending a low score on that ground, you could do a decent job, but how are you going to be able to put pressure on the side enough for you to win the game? I don't know. So that is on SRH. Can they qualify? After all I've said, I'm going to say no. I just think they've got very good batting, especially on a good track, but they haven't really paid attention to the facet that they tried to improve their batting after watching the previous season, and they've realised that, well, I think they will realise that, oh no, their bowling is a bit light going to this competition, so that's on that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, share it with a friend, remember, this is my opinion, what's yours?